Hey, I'm Mikko from ML Sound Lab, and let's dive deep into ML drums. Okay, so this is ML drums, and I'm so proud of this release. We've worked on this for almost 2 years now, and it's finally here. Felt like forever, but finally I can show you what it's all about. Now, first things first, the cool thing about this release is that this is our very own drum sampler, no contact, you just start it up and it works. Routing is super easy, everything is super easy, so the design itself is made to be as easy as possible and getting instant results. Now, another cool thing about ML drums is that the initial release is completely 100% free. Now, I already have ML drums essentials installed here. So the free kit actually comes with this snare, this kick, this tom, this other tom, hi-hat, ride, a china, and a crash. Now, as you can see here in the UI, I have a bunch of drums that are not a part of the free ML drums pack. That is because I also have ML drums essentials installed. This is an expansion that you can immediately purchase. What you get with ML drums essentials is another floor tom, another rack tom, you get another china, 2 more crashes, and you get all of these effect symbols. You get a mini china, you get a bell, you get a stacks, and 2 splashes. And on top of those, with ML drums essentials, you also get 2 different tunings more for the snares. So this is the default tuning for the snare. This is what we call a medium tuning. You get a lower one with more oomph, and then you have the high one. And the high one adds that amazing ring to the snare, which is my favorite sound out of these. Let's just stick to the medium one at this point. And same thing for the kick. This is the free ML drums kick. You get 3 more microphone options when you get ML drums essentials. So you get the B52A, which is probably the most common microphone for the kick. You get a P52G and the M250. And the default one is this. And the default microphone, if you cannot guess by the name what it is, it's one of those microphones that has a switch for a mid scoop that is very good for kick drums. So that is probably my favorite kick drum microphone to start out with, because it doesn't really require you to do any mixing. It just works immediately straight out of the box. Woo! Now, the best way to demonstrate ML drums is just to show you what it sounds like. So what I have here is actually the session of that release track for ML drums, and you'll actually get to see how we made that track. And as always with all ML Sound Lab products, when you hear a demo from us, it's a non-mixed, non-post-processed version of our product. So the actual drum sounds that you hear in the demo are coming out of ML drums without any post-processing. It's just the presets that are included. Okay, so right now I'll be using the post-grunge preset that we have here, and you'll get to hear what it sounds like. And pay attention to the different dynamics, the velocities that we're using here in the drum map UI. So we're essentially having all the velocities pretty much full on all the time, but when using a hi-hat, when using toms, when using the ride, you rarely actually hit them as hard as you possibly can. So those are the parts where I highly recommend you go in and tweak a little bit for the velocities. But the cool thing about ML drums is that it is made to be as dead simple as possible. You can run it with full velocity all the time and it'll sound pretty damn good. Let's have a listen. Pretty impressive, am I right? And as you saw right here, that is just using the post-grunge presets of Vemo drums. It's included when you install it, and these are the sounds you get out of this plugin, out of this virtual instrument without any tweaking. Okay, let's have a look at the mixer page, because the mixer page is as easy as possible, but at the same time as versatile as possible. So you have separate EQ controls for all the drums. You have a compressor for the kick, snare, and toms, and the room, and you also have a master compressor. So you can essentially maybe just use the master compressor and none of these above if you want to get a more dynamic sound of the kits. Before going into that, I want to tell you that we have separate bleed controls for the overheads and rooms, so you can control how much of the snare you want to have in your overheads or the rooms. Same for the kick, the toms, etc. You have separate close mics for the hi-hat and rides. Likewise, just like what the kick and snare and toms, you can control how much of those you want to have in your room and how much of those you want to have in your overheads. You can pan the hi-hat and ride to your liking. On top of everything there, you have a reverb channel here. So we have inbuilt reverb where you can adjust the time of how long this reverb will be. You can control what you send into this reverb. So you can send the close mics from kick, snare, and toms. But what I opt to do most of the time is to just compress the room track because it sounds the best anyways and roomy. And I'm compressing it to max and then sending that to the reverb. So I'm not actually using any reverb on the close mics, just adding reverb to the room track. So to demonstrate all the things you can do with the controls here in the mixer, let's just have a snare playing and me showing you what you can do with just snare track. Obviously this applies to all the different tracks included in the mixer page. This is just a very good way to demonstrate it. So here is the snare being played as it is. Now, one of the main controls here is the compressor. So if I turn the compressor down, you get the raw sample. Just the close mic sounds like this. So you can start adding compression with auto gain makeup. Very good. So let's add the compressor to about where it was. Now, as you can see, we are not sending any of this reverb into the reverb itself, but the reverb you're hearing is the room track, the overheads, and that room track sent to the reverb. So you have EQ for the snare, but this is only for the close mic. You can add mid-range or scoop the snare. You can add low and thump if you want, or cut, or just leave it neutral. Now with these controls, you can just opt to use the close mic. You're only hearing the close mic of the snare right now, but I can now adjust how much of the snare I want in the overheads. In general, that is not the best sound in my opinion, so I don't really push this too high. I don't really want to get a stereo snare type of a sound. Same thing for the room mic. And right now I'm compressing the room track entirely, so this is what you're hearing. Also I'm adding just a tiny bit of reverb to make the room sound even bigger. Now that is just a quick demonstration of what you can do with the mixer page. That is just the snare section here. You can do the same thing for all of these. Just imagine tweaking the room track and just kind of using the room controls to get a really nice room sound, then blending that with your entire mix. So let's just have a listen to the room track, and let's only use the room track and see what kind of a room sound I can get without any closed microphones. Now that is just the room track of ML drums. Just imagine blending this room track with your close mic tracks. It's just gonna give you so much realism, and what I've actually done with ML drums ever since using it is just fine-tune that room sound to be as huge as possible and then blending it with the dry samples. This is the best way to get essentially this virtual instrument to sound nothing like a digital drum programmer. It sounds like real drums every single time. So happy with how realistic this virtual instrument actually is. My recommendation is to use just a tiny bit of the master compressor in the end. That kind of helps glue the entire kit together and once again make it sound more like one thing. This is what I do with real drums as well. So it's good to have like one master compressor for the drum bus to make it kind of seem like it's one instrument rather than a snare poking out here and a kick there and having different settings. So that's just my recommendation, and all the presets in here have a tiny bit of master compressor on them because that is how I recommend everyone does it. Okay, on top of the mixer page you have a MIDI page where you have learn functions. So you actually have some presets for the most common platforms that you may be using right now. So it's super easy for you to try out ML drums. For example, if you're using our good buddies GGD's products, you can use the GGD map and so on. AD, you can kind of guess what these stand for. Also, you can use the learn function if you use your own setup, or if you have an e-kit, e-drums, you can use the learn function to really quickly map out your own setup, and then you can actually save your setup as well, which is super handy. On the shop page, you will eventually find a bunch of cool stuff. And as I said in the beginning, you can already get ML Drums Essentials. So you get this kit with 2 more crashes, a China, 5 different effect symbols, so to say, 2 more toms, different tunings for the snare, and different microphones for the kick. Go check out ML Drums. Very proud with this release, and I think you will love it as well. So easy to use, and see you guys on the next one. And please send me all the clips you make with ML Drums. I'd love to hear them. Thank you. See you on the next one. Bye. Bye.